West End star Ruthie Henschel, who has been campaigning for the rights of those in care homes and their families, has described the government as utterly inhumane following the death of her own mum, Gloria, in a care home. Gloria was 87 and had dementia. Because of COVID, Miss Henschel and her sisters went almost a year without being able to visit her. From next Monday in England, 5 named people will be able to visit a relative living at a care home, and a maximum of 2 visitors will now be allowed at any one time. And the government says care providers and homes are expected to follow that guidance unless there is a good reason to take a different approach. Well, let's talk to Ruthie Henschel and her sister Susan now. Hello, both of you. And first of all, I want to say I am really so sorry about your mum, Ruthie. And Susan, I wonder, Ruthie, could you tell us about Gloria? What kind of a woman was she?
Well, she was an incredible woman, Vic. She really was. You know, she wasn't an easy person either at times. But she was a school teacher and a drama teacher. And I love the fact that she inspired a lot of people to follow their dream, including me. You know, and... you know, she was an incredible woman.
How, and we're just seeing a photograph of her now. This is a photo for when I think when you were able to go back into the care home. I want to ask you, how much do you think the lack of contact affected your mum in the last year?
Oh, Vic, honestly, the first 4 months of lockdown, we all knew we had to keep them safe then and sort of, you know, wagons surround. But she went from walking and talking to not walking and talking, to have her food liquidized, to have her drinks thickened. And that happened in that 4-month period when she had no contact whatsoever with anybody apart from the odd carer coming into her room because they were, you know, locking them down in their own rooms. And this is people with dementia who, a lot of them, I have to be honest, are wanderers. They need to wander the corridors. They, you know, all they have is each other. And everything comes into a home. The entertainment, the visitors, everything comes into a home. Then very rarely going out. And that all stopped too. So they went from having, my mother went from having at least 3 or 4 visits a week to nothing. And it just took her down so quickly. Yeah. And my mother is just one of many that I've heard about.
Susan, you were able to have, as I understand it, just 2 indoor visits before your mum died. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I was absolutely mortified. And I was also quite angry as well because, you know, I'd just been able to see her and we had a birthday celebration for her on the Sunday and she was obviously not well then. And then she died on the Monday and I was just absolutely mortified about it.
Ruthie has described the government as utterly inhumane when it comes to the government guidance for people visiting relatives in care homes. Do you agree, and why do you use those terms?
I think at the end of the day, the government should have stepped in and done something for the residents in the care homes, supported them. I mean, they are human and they have human rights as well. And they were just kept locked up in their rooms. They didn't know why. And if you've got dementia, you know, a lot of them are wanderers. And if you try and restrict them, it gets them into a panic. It torments them. So, you know, I think that residents should have some rights, the same as anybody else.
Ruthie, this guidance will change again on Monday, meaning that care home residents will be allowed 5 named visitors, up from 2 currently. Do you still think it's vital that the guidance is changed into legislation?
Yes, this means absolutely nothing and continues to mean absolutely nothing because it's just guidance, which means that there is still a postcode lottery. There are still people who haven't even seen their loved ones and they are having visits behind screens. If they have visits, there are still care homes who are completely making up their own rules. And this is what's making me so distressed about all of this, is because the government needs to grow a pair, and they need to absolutely make this law so that people can't make up their own rules about this. And, we don't want, just in case, COVID comes back into the home, we have that. My mother had both of her jabs. I've had one of my jabs. My sister's had one of her jabs. We did a lateral flow test every time we went in, PPE, temperature check, oxygen levels. This is as good as it's going to get. So why are we still continuing to lock down these people who need desperately to see their family? I mean, my role, I was an essential caregiver in the end, which is what the government has some guidance saying, that if the needs of the person are great enough, they can have an essential caregiver. Yeah. Well, when are those needs great? What about mental needs? What about, we all know how it has been not to be able to hug people for a year. How dare we do these to these vulnerable people? There is not the risk anymore that there was. Let people in. I'm not saying just open the doors and let everybody in.
I know.
But, to make this law, and then these homes cannot make up their own rules.
Ruthie, Susan, thank you so much for talking to us. And again, I'm so sorry about your mum, but you did your absolute best for her, didn't you? I mean, that's the bottom line. You really, really fought, and you got to see it. It's not enough time, but you did it.
I'm not giving up though, Vic. I'm really, really not. Not until all people have seen their loved ones.
Good for you. Thank you very much, Ruthie. Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruthie and Susan Henschel. Now, as new legislation